just started moving around, and he thought to himself, like, I should really be spooking at that, and he kept trying to do his job, which, that was pretty generous of him. So I left and just said, okay, you know, hang out for a second, and here he comes, which is great. Good boy. So, I'm not entirely sure what made me switch sides. I think that it was mostly that he kept opening up this side to me, even though I was on the other side. Something that'll help you when you're using this kind of treat delivery system where you are petting, you're trying to get them to bring the head down to you, is when you open your hand, you want to make it really obvious, because they get some sort of satisfaction. I mean, I think it's like the Jack in the Box. They just like to see it open. Interesting choice once again. So he says, you can touch me as long as I can see. You know, he's like, move your face so that I can look around and you can touch my neck. So we're getting to a really interesting part of the training where he's actually perceiving my touching him as a signal to actually reach out and take his screen. So watch, I touch him, and he was too good that time. Let's see if we can make it a little harder. So I put my hand up, and he just is like, oh, I'm supposed to reach forward when your hand's on me. The more specific that you can be about what you want, the more you can break haltering down into, oh, I need his head down, forward, and I need it tilted this way. The more you can think about all those little things, the more you'll be able to create a lasting haltering training. The other thing that you'll notice is watch how he is with the click. I could just let my hand spring open and not click, and I'd still get the same sort of response, which tells me again that this is a really visual horse. Noah, on the other hand, he could hear a click from a mile away, and he's like, treat time. And he's visual too, but this horse is really visual. So, I wouldn't have really guessed that this mare would be that bossy towards him and enough to rattle him a little bit. But she is a pretty confident mare, I noticed while I was working with her. Oh boy. But it definitely was enough to rattle him. So see that again? He's telling me what side he wants me on. And it's really important to be respectful of that, because sometimes they want you on this side, sometimes they don't. What side you pick is the difference between whether you're successful in, you know, half the time or twice the time. It's just a really important aspect. So he just offered something interesting here. That was the first time he'd say, you can touch my nose. And for a horse that, you know, has been ridden in like a racing bit and made to slow down by his face and stuff, his nose is pretty delicate. Like, racehorses tend to be really protective of their muzzle area. But then when they get around to letting you actually touch it, they always have really velvety noses, and they seem to like them stroked. Don't you? So now what I'm doing is we're working a little bit on the touch relationship. We've done a lot with where he'll let me stand. So now he's letting me stand somewhere he can't actually see me all that well. And what I'm asking here is just like move into the pressure, sort of like, well, it's not even that really, but it's essentially a stick with me game. So I've got my hand on the side of his nose here, and I'm saying just because I'm close doesn't mean you have to move away. Like, that can be partly training, that could be partly claustrophobia. if you guys have seen all of the catching demos, you see me pet horses in a lot of different places to get them haltered. And every horse harbors anxiety in a different part of their body. But the key to actually getting the halter on them successfully and actually changing how they think about haltering is knowing which part they're harboring the anxiety in and separating it out. So he harbored it definitely on his neck. He didn't want me to touch his neck at first, and then the next place was his nose. They'll tell you where to go. It's like giving somebody a massage. They can't help but kind of open up the spots that hurt a little bit, and I wouldn't say they hurt physically. They might, but certainly they're emotionally sensitive areas. And when he puts his head a little bit like this and says, yeah, go ahead and touch me there, he's saying, this is what I actually need to be halterable. It's not just a suggestion, that's what he actually needs. You can certainly get him haltered for years doing it without actually teaching this, but they're always going to be just a little bit funny about catching. Okay, so the next thing you need to think about is the motion under their neck. They can just barely, horses can look out the bottom of their eyes. They have really interesting vision. It's called trifocal. So they can look out of different parts of their eyes and have different levels of focus. So if something's off in the distance, they put their head up like this and they look out. The way that they look out their eyes helps them see off in the distance. And same thing when something's on the ground. So I think for the distance it's the bottom of the eye because they go like that, and on the ground they look out the top of their eye. So when I'm putting this halter under his neck, something I need to think about is how he's going to look and try and see the halter. Because a lot of ways that he would look to try and see the halter are actually going to make him, don't bite him, are actually going to make him hard to halter and hard to position the halter to get it on. So that's something I just need to start thinking about here. So what I did this time is I moved under his neck quite a bit more in his opinion. Probably didn't look like a whole lot to you. And I just said, okay, just so you know, there's going to be something coming up from down there later. So let's start thinking about that. The other thing is here, I could have gotten this halter on him a lot long ago, but that's not the point. What I'm training here is I'm letting him get rid of anxiety that he has had over being touched in this space for probably his whole life. So he got spooked and he couldn't even take his treat. A lot of times that's because horses who get pulled around a lot by a halter because they don't have a good stick with me game, they're really sore on that pole area right on the back of their neck. Because the places the ligaments connect there are actually really small. It's, they're like the size of your finger. So the tension that we put on a horse's neck, pulling on with a halter, is like pulling on a finger in a lot of ways. So a lot of horses don't want to be touched there because it hurts all the time. It's sore from being dragged around by a halter. So the other thing here is you've seen me halter horses a bunch of different ways over the last couple of days. And this is the first time that I've actually done this way, which is reaching up and underneath. And I really don't care how I put a halter on a horse. Yep, it's okay. Yep, it's alright. So he didn't like seeing the strap, but I knew he wasn't going to like it, so I just walked back with him. Like I said before, it's important to know how to halter the horse the way he wants to be haltered. In the end, you want to teach it all the different ways because that's what makes a really halter-trained horse.